What is up, Bodyweight exercise fans? In today's video, we'll be focusing on three main topics. Number one, how to increase testosterone naturally. Number two, how to gain muscle while losing fat. And number three, why the typical bodybuilding approach of cutting and bulking doesn't work for most real people like me and you. Now, in order to do my best to explain all these complicated topics today in one short video, I'll be also sharing a little bit of my personal progress, since I find it always easier to explain things through personal examples. Basically, what I've been focusing this year mainly is to get rid of as much fat as possible, ideally drop down to a single body fat digit, while also gaining a little bit of muscle on the side. And the main purpose behind all this is that I want to get as strong and as shredded as possible as I grow older into my 40s. A topic we talked also a lot about in my previous video, how to stay superhero ripped, which if you haven't seen, I'll link it at the end of today's video. And I'm pretty sure that right now a lot of you are thinking, but isn't gaining muscle and losing fat supposed to be extremely difficult? The truth is that not really. It used to be the popular idea that it is almost impossible, but from all the latest research that we have regarding nutrition and exercise for optimal body composition, what we know nowadays is that you have to meet really special criteria in order to not be able to do this. What are these criteria? Number one, you've been training long and consistent enough to get as close as possible to your genetic ceiling. Number two, which is actually part of the previous criteria, but just to be as clear as possible, I've separated it, is already putting in your best efforts into a well-designed workout plan. And number three, having a close to perfect diet plan set in place and actually following this diet plan on a daily basis. So unless you meet all these special criteria, which, let's be honest, unless you're a professional model or actor, will be rarely the case, at least on a year-round basis. So, unless you belong in these special categories of people, don't worry, building muscle and getting rid of fat is not as difficult as people want you to think it is. And I'll be explaining to you today how to do this exactly in two simple steps. So quickly explained, if you want to build muscle and get rid of fat, what you want to do is set specific periods during the year where you focus on diet. So you find a high protein diet that creates a small caloric deficit of about 15 to 20% of your calorie maintenance. And while you're on that diet, you're also training a little bit harder than what your body is used to. So once again, to make this as simple and as clear as possible, you want to focus on two steps. Step number one is nutrition. You want a high protein diet. That means 1.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight minimum per day. You want to focus on a small caloric deficit, somewhere between 15 and 20%. And step number two is exercise. You want to train a little bit harder from what your body is used to during the rest of the year. To do this, you can increase training volume, you can increase training intensity, you can increase both, but basically focus on getting stronger and pushing your body a little bit harder from what it's used to. Personally, to accomplish this year, I initially dropped down to 11% of body fat, without having a really extreme workout plan or an extreme diet. I just did that gradually, and once I got down to 11% of body fat, which is my pretty, sticky place regarding getting leaner, in order to kick things up a notch, I got more strict with my diet. So I got started with a high protein diet and a small caloric deficit, as explained previously, and I got on my typical workout plan that I do once a year when I want to kick things up a notch, the Superhero Bodyweight workout plan, which, by the way, for those interested, I'll be sharing at the end of this video today a link where you can subscribe. It's a newsletter list basically, and you can stay informed when the new version, the Superhero Bodyweight workout plan 4.0, will be released, and you'll be also informed on how to get it with a 50% discount. So this special discount will only be available for 24 hours. So if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe to this list. I'll share the link at the end of this video. But back to our topic. So to make a long story short, the typical bodybuilding approach of cutting and bulking won't work for most of us regular people. This is a strategy that works well for those who are on drug enhancing substances, illegal drug enhancing substances, or at least those who are basically have a combination of amazing genetics and youth on their side. But if you're a regular person like me and most of the people I'm guessing that watch these videos here, if you struggle with stubborn fat around the midsection, maybe also skinny fat, if you're above 30, then what you want ideally to do is focus more on body recomposition. So what does that mean? Well, for starters, if you're above 20% of body fat, then I would say first of all, make sure that you drop below that. And once you're below that, once you're below 20%, what you want to do is have cycles of body recompositioning interspersed with cycles of maintenance. So to make this a little bit more clear, what I mean is that have a few times during the year that you focus on a very proper diet, like the one we mentioned before, and a training routine that is a little bit more hardcore to what your body is used to. Once you go through that cycle successfully, and you drop down to a body fat that you're happy with, then you can train at maintenance and eat at maintenance. And every now and then when you feel that you're gaining a little bit of extra fat, go through a cycle of that again. Now, if you're wondering why is this approach so much better than the other approaches, here are my top 5 benefits. Number 1 is health. Getting rid of fat while gaining muscle is one of the best things you can do for your overall health. Number 2 is motivation. Seeing muscle definition in the mirror is always more motivating and keeps you going more than gaining muscle that is not obvious and is covered in fat. Number 3 is avoiding to gain stubborn fat. Sure, gaining muscle on a caloric surplus is easier, but doing that in the expense of gaining extra fat, which becomes only more and more difficult as you grow older, is never worth the case. Number 4 is anabolic hormone inhibition. Gaining too much fat can also hinder anabolic hormones, which also affect muscle growth and fat loss, which brings me to my next topic, increasing testosterone naturally. Dropping down to a low body fat level is one of the best things you can do to naturally increase your testosterone, a major driver of muscle growth and fat loss, as most of us know, but also a hormone that begins to gradually drop after 30. Now, regarding the 5th benefit, increasing testosterone naturally, I know that a lot of you today clicked on this video to learn more about this, since we guys, especially after 30, are very obsessed about testosterone since it relates to a lot of topics that we're interested in. There's a lot of misinformation, unfortunately, online, and you can read a ton of things that are supposed to be helpful, but you won't find a lot of things that will actually affect testosterone other than, first of all, the basics, which I like to call the 3 S's, and nutrition. What are these? Sleep, proper sleep, stress regulation, and strength training, plus a proper diet. So once you have all these basic things set in place, one of the few other things that you can do to really affect your testosterone is dropping as close as possible to a single body fat digit. Now, also keep in mind that you want to be within a healthy body fat percentage range. Going lower than 8% can also hinder your testosterone levels. And if you're wondering what is the exact number for you, this depends a lot from person to person, but you want to find a number that you can maintain while feeling energetic, feeling healthy. For me, it's usually between 9 and 10%. I think that's where I feel that I'm at my best, both in terms of being efficient in my workouts and being as feeling as good as possible during the rest of my day for the rest of my activities. For those interested in staying posted with the new plan when it's going to be released, but also in order to get it at 50% discount, which will be available for only 24 hours. So keep that in mind. Make sure to subscribe to the newsletter list below. I'll include a link. This is a different newsletter list from my Bodyweight Muscle main list. So, you know, if you want to be notified to make sure that you get the 50% discount, make sure that you subscribe over there. So that was all for today, and now next time, keep on training.